time. We need some hip hop, little technology, some futuristic stuff. Because we're future thinkers. That's how we roll. We feel in the future. Yes, we're in the present, but we're always thinking about the future. What's going to happen tomorrow, a week, a month, a year, 2, 5, 20. We're always thinking about the future. That's what I want you to be thinking about as you're moving left to right to left, left to right to left, left to right to left. Oh. Yes. So, this is by DLP. DLP will make sure to tag him in social media, all that good stuff. All right. Perfect. So, it is Friday, July 15th. July 15th?
16th.
Everybody says, July 16th. All right, it is July 16th. Sorry, guys. I was sick yesterday, so I'm kind of a little out of it, a little loopy. So it's July 16th today, 2021, and I'm like a broken record. This year is going by super fast. I can't believe it. This year's going by super fast. So, without further ado, welcome to episode 12 of Real Talk with Coach Q and
brokerwes.
Yes. All right. So before we get started on our show, if this is the first time you're watching, quick introductions. My name is Kieran. I am a realtor, which means I get to help people with their real estate needs. Looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate, I'm your man to call. And I'm also Coach Q, where I get the opportunity to coach agents to take them from, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, to, oh my gosh, Coach Q, I just made $20,000 in a month. What's up? Right? I get to do all that good stuff, and I am honored and privileged to have that ability to be able to help people. And now I'm gonna let Wes do his introduction, so he can let you know what he does.
What's up, Wes, y'all? This is Wes Oliver, aka Broker Wes, the mortgage wizard, the money man, the breaker of financial chains, and the bringer of rain. And I'm here to help people get more information about what it takes to invest in a home, to finance wisely, and understand your options and fit everything nicely into your overall financial picture.
Oh, come on, man. Come on. I got to give up for that. Jeez, who wouldn't want that? I mean, seriously, who wouldn't want that? The breaker of change. I mean, that is awesome. I love that. I love that. Awesome. Also, if you guys are peeping the shirts, Real Talk with Coach Q and Broker Wes, get your merch. Make sure to message us because we got a great team behind us that's putting together all these great pieces, whether they're shirts, hats, all this good stuff. So definitely make sure to reach out to us. All right. Now, before we get started on the show, actually, as we get started on the show, very first part we talk about is leadership success tips, because Wes and I, we're partners. We work well in the real estate business. We've been able to find success. And what we like to do is we like to share some of the philosophies that we use on a day-to-day basis to make sure to keep us successful. So today I want to share with you a quote from one of my mentors, John Maxwell. And he was talking about how a person should walk in a form of expertise, but also make sure that they are still humble, right? And what I mean by that, when I think of a person as an example, I think of Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe Bryant, is definitely my favorite player, and with him, he was an expert at what he did. When it came to basketball, he was a true master. He was a true expert when it came to basketball. And when people interviewed him, people talked to him, he just told it how it was. I mean, Kobe wasn't the kind of player that walked around and said, oh, I'm the best because I do this, and I'm the best because I do that, and you guys will never make it to my level or anything. A lot of the things that Kobe does, you hear that from other people. Like, for instance, I remember watching the Olympics, and they interviewed one of his trainers, and one of his trainers was sharing a story that, I think Kobe called him about like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he asked to meet him in the gym. And he was there just taking shots, right? And then I believe like around 6:30, 7 o'clock, the other players came to the court, and the trainer that was with Kobe that morning went home, and he came back, and he seen Kobe taking shots, right? And he comes to Kobe and he said, oh, so you came back, huh? And Kobe looked at him crazy. He's like, because Kobe never left. Like, Kobe stayed on the court, And like I said, you hear stories like that from other people. Kobe never shared those stories to people because he walked with as an expert, and he always carried himself humbly because he let his what he did to show, the work behind it. And for me, that's what I think of when I think of a person that truly walks with that mindset of being an expert, but very humble about, about what they do. So yeah, so definitely Kobe definitely makes me think. That's definitely a person that I think of when I heard this quote from my mentor John Maxwell. And I definitely want you guys to become experts at what you do, and be humble about it. Because as you're humble about it, let other people tell your story. Let other people tell your success. Let other people tell the work that you put together to get to this level. Because it's so much more sweeter when other people are talking about you and bringing your own praises to you, as opposed to you sharing your own praises with other people. So, so Wes, when you think about that, what comes to your mind when it comes to being an expert and also being humble at the same time?
Yeah, for me, the main thing is when we talk about being humble or the humility part, it's very important with what we do in our industry because a lot of what we do is intimidating to people. And so I feel it's better to be able to meet people on their level and be able to explain things and take your time and bring them along and help them understand why you're advising them in the way you are, as opposed to, don't you know who I am? Just do what I say do. It's like I said, it's a very intimidating process, and you want to maintain that connection with the people you deal with. So, I mean, yeah, and even if you talk about your expertise, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because a lot of times people want to know about our expertise. Who are you and why should I work with you? Why should I
Right,
trust you?
right,
But again, it's about how you relay the message about your expertise and whether or not you're trying to elevate yourself over that person and intimidate them and bully them, or if you're basically giving them the information they need to build that trust and then meeting them on their level and still connecting with them and making them feel like we're part of this process together. We're working together, you and I, you and us. We're doing this whole thing together, step by step.
yeah, I like that, man. Absolutely. All right, perfect. So we move on to our next topic, which is the main event. So what we really want to touch on is something that's been happening in the market. It's the fact that home inventory has been increasing, right? So what does this actually mean? Is this good for sellers that home inventory is increasing? Is this good for buyers that home inventory is increasing? Or could it be good for both? So before I expound on it, I want to let Wes share his feedback and what he's gathering from the inventory rising, what that can mean.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing for buyers because it gives them hope. It encourages them because obviously a lot of the things that we've been hearing from people who are in the market to buy right now is just in some cases the frustration of dealing with multiple offers when they go to submit an offer, or worse yet, just having slim pickings as far as finding the type of property they want in the location they want. So it's definitely a good thing for buyers in that regard. As far as for sellers, ultimately, of course, at some point when we get to a buyer's market, it will be good and bad for sellers. It'll be good because they'll have plenty of people available to, try to buy their home, but they'll have more competition in the market, which of course could lead to either A, downward pressure in home prices, or B, them just having to make more concessions in order to, get into escrow with the buyers.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love that. I love that. And when I think about home inventory increasing, for me, I definitely feel as a seller, now is the time. Now is the time that if you want to maximize the opportunity to get the most amount of money for your house, it's now. because what we know that if inventory continues to increase, it creates competition, right? So if you're a buyer, and you got a choice of 3 houses, they all have 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. They're all similar in terms of the models, right? They've all been upgraded. Which home are you gonna go for? Most likely you'll probably go for the least price house. And if you can't get that, you go for the second least price house, right? So as a seller, you have to be aware of these things. That competition comes on, you may not get the top dollar or that amount that you wanted as inventory increases. Now on the other side, for buyers, this can be a good sign for buyers. So instead of 50 buyers being on one house, maybe there's only 25, maybe there's only 15, right? It definitely levels out the playing field, where buyers will have more options in terms of the homes that they can purchase, in terms of the homes that are actually available. So for me, when I see inventory rising, I still see it as it can be a benefit for both parties, right? Because the thing is, if you hired an expert to sell your home, regardless if there's other houses on the market, a true expert will be able to really, outline the features and benefits of your home, and really what really makes your home stand out amongst the other houses, right? Like, so for instance, like myself, when I sell homes, I always make sure to take a point to have it staged, have a professional photography, videographer, even drone footage sometimes, because I want to make sure that we make the best first impression, regardless if it's a seller's market, a balanced market, or even a buyer's market. I always want to make sure that we make the first best impression. So doing that, we are still able to sell for top dollar, even if we are in a market that's increasing inventory. Now, like I said, for buyers, it's still a good sign for you to go out in the market. The thing is, too, Wes, where are the interest rates right now?
Still close to historical lows.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, if you're a buyer, it's still a great time for you to buy, because you're still, you still are experiencing, historical interest rates.
Mhm.
So if you're a buyer out there, it's still a good time to buy. And for me, I'll be honest, I still felt it was a good time for buyers to be out there, right? So if you're a buyer, stay out there. You will find the house that you're looking for. So, all right. Now we move on to hot topics. Hot topics. All right. Now, we want to talk about hot topics. We want to talk about cash buyers. And when it comes to cash buyers, they've been in the market. I mean, this is nothing new. Cash buyers have been in the market. But what we've seen is that cash buyers have increased, would you say, about 30% of what we're seeing in the market?
Yeah, so they're at 30% of the market right now.
Yeah. So, Wes, what do you think? Like, why do you think we're seeing more cash buyers in this market than we've seen since 2014?
Yeah, so there's a few different reasons. Number one, first and foremost, stock and stock options. The S&P has gained 36% in the last year.
Hmm.
36%.
Yes.
If you're not in the market, you probably should consider getting in that market too. Maybe you could buy yourself a house for cash.
There you go.
Secondly, I just think that with the demand that there is and the lack of available homes, people just feel the need to be more competitive. And, how much more competitive then can you be than to walk in and say, we're going to pay cash for this. We're waiving all contingencies. We'll get this done in a couple of weeks. And I'm out. Drop the mic.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's also just because it's it's another way to be more competitive.
Mhm.
Also, here's another thing I had not thought about, because as I started, looking for information on this stuff and reading. So what they also pointed out was telecommuting. So you have places like San Francisco,
Mhm.
San Jose, for instance, where home prices are very high. People felt compelled to live in the city because they worked in the city. But now that they no longer have to go into the office every day,
Mhm.
what those people are doing, they're selling their homes in those high cost areas and then they're taking that money and buying in lower cost areas for straight cash.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty interesting too. Like I never thought about that angle. So that's another pretty interesting thing. And I'll just leave you with this. Remember, one of the things I always point out: real estate is local. So you can't just go by what's going on overall throughout the nation. You have to look at what's going on in your particular area. So I'll leave you with this. Even though cash buyers are at 30% across the nation, here in California, with most of the high cost areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Oakland, um, San Jose, San Diego, the cash buyers only represent 12 to 16% of the market because it takes a lot more cash to be a cash buyer in California.
Right. Absolutely.
So if you're listening to this, specifically if you're in Orange County or California anywhere, don't get discouraged because you're not dealing with, fortunately for you, you're not dealing with as many cash buyers as other parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a definitely a great point. Because like you said, I mean, you have to put it in perspective, and you got to remember that this is local business. So even if you see, and the thing is with that 30%, that's a broad stroke, right? That's the average. That's taking into account not just the West Coast, but it's also the Midwest. It's also the East Coast. So it's taking it all together. So that's why it's really important. In terms of where you're getting your information. So you should definitely make sure you're getting your information on a local source. Now, obviously, Wes and I still, read global things such as like the Wall Street Journal, things of that nature, right? But we still also make sure to get information locally. Maybe through like the Stephen Thomas report, Human Current Matters, things of that nature. And also, as a normal person, as a normal consumer, also reach out to your local real estate professionals, whether it's your realtor or your lender. Because obviously we're going to have the information, that's really important to what's going on locally, not just what's going on as a world. So, thank you, Wes, for expounding on that. All right, perfect. Now we move on to the market report. So, the market report, we're talking about jobs, bonds, and forbearance market. Now, that's definitely something a lot of people are thinking that this huge wave of forbearance is going to come. So, let's let Wes expound more on the market report.
Yeah, so let's start with the forbearances. So this week we saw the largest improvement on the forbearances to date, and here's why. We lost another 189,000 people came out of a forbearance, another 189,000, and for the first time since April of last year, which is over a year ago, we've dipped below 2 million. So right now there are less than 2 million people in the forbearance program. And also new entries into the forbearance programs or re-entries, people who came out and have to get back in, also hit a low with only 26,000. So it seems like people are coming out of the forbearances safely, and largely they're able to maintain and stay out of the forbearance once they get out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so what do you tell the people, Wes? I mean, you're hurting some feelings out there, man, because I've heard some people, even in our industry, talking about this huge wave of foreclosures that are going to be coming on. And Wes, I mean, you keep sharing this data that's going against that. Like, what do you tell people out there? What do you tell those buyers that are saving up the money because they're ready to go out there and take advantage of these homes, pennies on the dollar? Like, what do you tell these people?
Well, again, as I always point out, you have to look at what's going on around you because it's easy to say everything's going to, take a dive, and we're going to end up back to where we were back in 2008 and thereafter, where the market just gets flooded with distressed properties. But you have to look at what caused that back in 2008 compared to where we are now and what's causing this particular challenge with people going into forbearances. And I like to believe from everything I've read and everything I've seen so far, we're trying to be much more proactive. And by we, I mean the Biden administration is trying to be much more proactive to make sure that they don't have a repeat of what happened under the Obama administration, where a lot of people lost homes and the banks really fumbled the process of helping people stay in their homes. And then lastly, people just have a lot of equity right now, man.
Why doesn't when I talk to these experts, where I hear them talk, why don't any of them ever think about that part? You know, I mean, yes, like remember home appreciation. We're seeing an average of home appreciation over 8% from year to year from 2020 and 2021. Like, hello, you know, if we're seeing that, and that's the average, meaning that some homes are getting higher than 8% of year to year from 2020 to 2021. So it's like, remember, guys, like that means that these aren't going to be foreclosure sales. If anything, they're going to be traditional sales, which means typically they're what? Market value, right? They're typically market value. So you're not going to come in here and like, oh yeah, that house that used to be $1 million, now it's 500,000. Let's go buy it. That's not what we're going to see. So I'm glad, Wes, you're continuing to share this information. And, you know, we're definitely going to continue to do that, because the last thing we want is for you buyers out there to put a stop on what you're going to do, because you think that you're going to see this huge wave of opportunities out there. Now, I know we're busting your bubble, but someone had to. All right.
All
So what's been
right.
going on with the jobs?
So this week, the number that came out was the jobless claims, and they were 26,000 less than what was anticipated. So it was only 360,000. So that again is kind of another precursor and another marker that says the economy is moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to 2008 and thereafter, for those who are waiting for the many foreclosures to hit the street, remember we were shedding jobs somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
The economy is losing like 40,000 jobs a day. So again, it's just, you have to pay attention to what's going on around you and look at the contributing factors then versus now. So yeah, jobless claims are down, which of course is a good thing.
Absolutely. And what's going on with those bonds? Mortgage bonds.
Well, basically the 10-year treasury bond, which is one of the greatest indicators of where we're headed in the direction of mortgage rates, are still pretty good, still pretty low. So the Reserve Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, he said inflation is well above target and transitory. Price pressures are well above target, and policy won't change until inflation and employment growth are well above last December. So right now, just to break that down for you in layman's terms, what Chairman Powell was basically saying was that what we're seeing as far as the improvement, it's not anything out of the ordinary. We're really just kind of getting back to where we were. So like when you look at these numbers of increased jobs or, you know, increased prices and things like that, it's specifically because we're recovering from everything that happened in the last year. You know, it's one thing if the economy was running, you know, great, and then all of a sudden you see large improvements in those areas. It's another thing entirely if you lose all those jobs, prices come down because you're in a global pandemic, and then you start to bring a lot of that back. So really you're just getting back to square one. Mm-hmm. It's not an improvement overall, it's an improvement from where you were. So the important part about that is is that for now, they're not going to do anything to change the monetary policy as far as how many bonds, not bonds, how many mortgage-backed securities they're buying and what they're doing with the, Federal Reserve rate and things like that. So that means that for the foreseeable future, interest rates should still remain relatively low compared to where we are or where we've been in the past. So that's a good thing.
Perfect, man. I like that. Yes. Now we move on to City Spotlight. So this is when we take a city in Orange County and we talk about it. Now, people probably say, why do you take cities in Orange County? Well, the reason why we do that is because we happen to live in Orange County, and a lot of our clients happen to buy, sell, and invest in real estate in Orange County. So it just makes sense for us to talk about Orange County. So today's city, we're actually going to be talking about the city of Fountain Valley. Now, I'm going to give you the not so fun stuff about Fountain Valley. I'll let Wes do the fun stuff. I'll just do more of the stats. Because you know what's funny? Wes is actually the numbers guy, but yet I'm actually going to do the stats. So that's kind of funny. So, yes. So the city of Fountain Valley. So when it comes to the city of Fountain Valley, currently right now, there's about 63 homes available for sale in the city of Fountain Valley. And there's about, in days of market, so this is when a home comes on the market, and then when it actually goes in escrow, it's about 26 days. So right now, the city of Fountain Valley is taking about 26 days before a house actually sells in the city of Fountain Valley. Now, the average price for the city of Fountain Valley is about a little over $916,000 for the city of Fountain Valley, right? And average income in the city of Fountain Valley is about a little over $87,000 in the city of Fountain Valley. So if you are looking in the city of Fountain Valley, you want some more information, you can definitely reach out to us, and we'd love to help you. Now, let Wes share fun things you could do in the city of Fountain Valley. So, Wes, take it away.
Yeah, so one of the things I found interesting, and I didn't know this, Fountain Valley covers 4 different school districts. So if you're in Fountain Valley, you could be part of 4 different school districts.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, which are Fountain Valley, Garden Grove, Huntington Beach, and then Ocean View.
Ocean View? Wow.
Yeah. Which is pretty interesting.
Yes.
So they have a tree lighting ceremony for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They have an annual Monarch Butterfly Day.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So we'll talk a little more about that Monarch Butterfly Day. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they just get together and really love on and appreciate monarch butterflies.
Okay. Is it like it's something like a display where you get to like be like, you know how at the fair, go to the fair, you're like in that butterfly cage and they kind of like fly around, they like land on you. They do something like that?
I think it's held at a particular location where they groom or whatever, whatever they do with butterflies to raise them or whatever. And yeah, it's a lot of love for the butterflies.
I love that. Yeah.
They also have an annual annual Easter egg hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They have Summerfest.
Mm-hmm.
They have a car show, the Fountain Valley Car Show.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And of course, as usual, they have concerts in the park.
Yes. Well, we love our concerts in the park. Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
You're going to sing at one of them, right? You're going to host one?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Give it a couple more years. Let my
Get
son
your John Legend on.
You know what? I'm more of a Neo.
Okay.
I'm more of a Neo man myself.
So you got to do some dancing too then.
Hey, exactly. You know what I mean? Because of you, absolutely. Yes, but that's pretty cool though. I mean, like for that city to have 4 different school districts, like that's pretty interesting. I mean, especially, if you are, a parent or maybe you're going to have children someday. I mean, Fountain Valley seems like a great city to be in, especially you have, all those different choices of school districts. So
well, it's funny you mentioned that because as people who are in the real estate industry,
mm-hmm.
that is going to have an impact maybe on where you decide to buy your property within the city of Fountain Valley, because your school districts are going to be based on geographic location.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of those school districts outperforms the others, you're more than likely, if you can afford to and you have children, you're going to want to put your kids in the school district that is the highest performing. And that's going to determine where you buy your home.
Absolutely. And also the price tag.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Wes, for sharing all that great information about the city of Fountain Valley. And again, if you guys have any other questions, you want to learn a little more about the city of Fountain Valley, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to assist. All right. Now we move on to one of my favorite segments of the show, the Wes Files. All right.
So this is the point in the show where I try to take a personal experience with one of my clients or one of the other professionals in this industry and really give you some information that you can learn from. I figure, as Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues, and so does failure.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So this week, all I can tell you is don't talk to strangers.
Ooh, don't talk to strangers. We got to hear more about that one.
So I had a particular client that I was working with to get through a pre-approval. We went through the entire pre-approval, which means I collected all their documents, ran their credit, sat down with them, went through all the numbers and whatnot, so they understood their options and everything that was going on. This particular buyer had limited funds, so they had only had enough saved for their down payment. They went to an open house without their realtor, which happens all the time, not a problem, but
Yeah.
They went to an open house without the realtor, and the realtor hosting the open house, the listing agent, referred them to another loan officer. Now, the other loan officer promptly told them to pay off debt to get their credit score up, but their credit score was high enough as it was, number one, and number two, because they paid off a few $1,000s in debts, they no longer had the money for the down payment. So that now, so that now puts them in a position where they're going to have to sit out the market and wait until they have enough funds in order to be able to buy the home and they have enough down payment funds again. So here's really my point. And I joke about not talking to strangers. And let me preface it this way. This is not about me not wanting my clients talking to other professionals in this industry. You're welcome to shop around and do all that stuff. What I would advise anyone who is already dealing with a particular real estate agent, loan officer, what have you, before you just run out and follow the advice of a complete stranger who may very well mean well, but I can tell you right now, you have to know the details and, as many of the details as possible before you can advise someone of what they need to do, right? So I would say, even if you get some advice from someone other than the person you've initially decided to work with, you should have the conversation with the person you've been working with. Because, and the reason I say that, there's an old saying, I know where all the bodies are buried, right?
Yes.
So the person you've been working with knows all of the intimate details of your situation. And they can quickly let you know whether or not what the other person was advising is accurate or inaccurate, whether it'll work or if it won't work. And that's why you want to have that conversation first, because, for instance, in the particular case of this particular client, one of the very important factors that completely changes the landscape of anything you can do is your citizenship status.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you are not a citizen or permanent, what we call a permanent resident alien, that changes what programs you have available to you. So they're advising you on what you need to do, and they might be getting you ready to participate in the program you don't even qualify for, only because they don't know all the intimate details. And that's the thing. And the way I try to explain it to people is simply this. Let's say hypothetically you have a family doctor that you work with and you go see.
Mm.
You're having some kind of ailment, whatever. Your family doctor has run all kinds of tests. They've interviewed you. They've taken all kinds of x-rays. They know your they know your family history. They know your medical history, what you're allergic to, all that good stuff. And then you go out to a party, run into another doctor, and you say, "Hey, doc, I've been having this, having this pain in the back of my, in the back of my neck for weeks now. What do you think it is?" Well, he's going to give you an answer, maybe, just based on what you can tell them in that short period of time. But you got to ask yourself, who's more qualified at that point to advise you on that? Obviously, the one who knows everything about you, the one that took the time to know everything about you. So, just my advice, even if you want to work with that other person, that's perfectly fine. But before you start doing things and taking action or taking actions that other person who knows very little bit about your situation advised you to do, talk to the person that spent the most time with you, that knows all the details of your situation, and see what they think. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely, man, and I like that. Now, one of the very first things that we do, when it comes to meeting clients, something that I do, it's called a buyer consultation. And I typically do that. I would say probably 90% of the time I do that before I actually introduce them to my lender, to Wes, right? Because I kind of want to fill them out, explain to them the home buying process to them, as well as find out their time frames when they're looking to make a move, right? And then I send them to Wes, and then Wes goes over his consultation with them, goes over all their finances, right? And then gives them homework, no documents that he needs to go over in order to present to them and qualify them or pre-approve them for a certain amount, right? So if you're a buyer and you go to an open house and maybe there's a lender there, and like he said, they're just giving you just some information, some advice, but until you actually sit down with them and they go over all of your documentation and they process it, remember, it's just advice. It's not clear cut instructions. And remember, your situation is probably different than other people's situation, right? And one of the reasons why I work with Wes and why we work so well together is because Wes isn't just black and white. He's not just, hey, it's either this way or not. And a lot of lenders are like that. Wes works in the gray area. It's like, hey, you don't have this. Do you know someone else that has this? Okay, this is what we can do. We can take this piece, we can do this, pay off this, and then this will happen, right? So he's looking at all different types of pieces to make things happen, right? And like I said, that's why, we work well together, because he's worked with some clients of mine that might have worked with another lender, and unfortunately that lender dropped the ball. And then I was able to introduce them to Wes, and Wes was able to come in and do his thing, and they were able to get a house, right? Just because, Wes happens to be a person that thinks outside the box and not just vanilla, you know, not just vanilla. He's also looked at other things. So also take account of that, like who you're talking to. There's nothing wrong with getting options. There's nothing wrong with getting second opinions. I mean, he stated that. If you want to work with that person, that's fine. But until that person sits down with you, they go over all your financial documentation. Do not do anything until they go over all your information. And like Wes said, don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but taking advice from that stranger, unfortunately, now has caused you to not buy a house. And
Right.
that's unfortunate. That's truly unfortunate. So, definitely, don't talk to strangers. And if you are talking to strangers, really take it with a grain of salt. Absolutely. All right. Now we move on to in the news. So, Mr. West, what's been in the news lately?
Okay. Let's start here. Mr. Virgin Atlantic himself, Richard Branson, taking a ride on the, what's it called? The VSS Unity. Unity. So he got so bored with the planet Earth and all his money. He's like, I need to find a way to leave it. So,
oh, I love that.
yeah, so he's been investing in this for 17 years. And he finally took flight, entered into space, did the little floaty thing, came back down, and yeah, interesting, right?
Yes, absolutely. Super interesting. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wonder how soon before we're trying to build on the moon, condominiums or something like that.
Yeah, I think we're a few years away from that.
Maybe.
Not too many though. Not too many. You never know. Because weren't they talking? I thought weren't they talking about possibly building something on Mars? Weren't they talking about that?
What's that?
Talking about possibly building something on Mars.
Yeah, they've talked about it several times.
Yeah, and Mars is obviously much further away than the moon is. So.
Yeah, and they have to find a way to develop a source of water, and I'm pretty sure there's no oxygen on Mars either. So they have to figure that whole thing out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So what else is in the news, Wes? What else is happening in the news that people should know
All
about?
right. So we got our NBA finals now. We're in the finals. We've got a series tied 2-2. So now it's pretty much the best of three.
Yes.
And no one has won on the road yet. So Milwaukee better figure it out. They have to steal at least one game on the road, or they will not be winning the championship. Phoenix, all they have to do is protect their home court.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it goes 7 games, all they have to do is win all their home games, they get a chip. So Milwaukee has to figure that out. They won the last game. Got ugly down the stretch for Chris Paul. He was looking like one of the Washington Generals out there, slipping and sliding and turning the ball over. So I expect they'll play a lot better at home, and I expect he'll bounce back. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, that's pretty exciting. So we'll definitely see that. Absolutely.
Yep. And then lastly, so LA has reinstated their indoor mask mandate.
Yes.
And that's for vaccinated persons and non-vaccinated persons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason they felt compelled to do that is because they're experiencing resurgence. They were down to 173 new cases a day. And just the other day, they were back up to 1,537 new cases in a day.
Wow. So from 173 new cases to now over 1,500 some cases each day.
Yes, in a day.
Jeez.
Yeah. So starting Saturday night, it'll be back in place. Unfortunately, they're already canceling some events like movie premieres, things like that. And the funny part is that not really funny, but the CDC and the Department of Health is still maintaining that no mask is really needed if you're vaccinated. So they're kind of going against the advisement of those two organizations. And here's why they feel you should be fine without a mask. Since December, the unvaccinated account for 99.6% of new cases, 98.7% of hospitalizations, and 99.8% of deaths. So they feel very confident that if you're vaccinated, you should be fine. high likelihood that you will be fine. And they said that's even with the new strain that everyone's worried about. I believe it came from somewhere in India.
Yeah, the Delta variant.
The Delta variant. Yeah. So
Mhm.
they said even with that, you should probably be fine. High likelihood that you'll be fine, even if you're infected. So yeah, but they're taking precautions. And the reason I'm saying that is because, of course, we're in Orange County. So I would say just keep an eye out because we may follow suit. We'll see.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. Well, I mean, hopefully, everyone stays safe, and hopefully, people follow the precautions and the protocol about it. Especially if those rates are going up, so astronomical like that. So,
Yep.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Wes. Thank you for sharing. All right. And last but not least, Wes and I got our very first open house we're having, since they lifted the ban of open houses. So we'll be doing it together this Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4. The address is 10945 Molly Knoll Avenue in the beautiful city of Whittier and the prestigious Friendly Hills area of Whittier. So if you guys want to come by, hang out, buy a house, because the house is for sale, definitely come by. We would love to see you. And until then, see you on the next episode.